Well, let's leave Zambia now and let's move on to another story. The Minister of State for Labour, Employment and Industrial Relations in Uganda, Colonel Charles Okello Engola, was on Tuesday shot dead by one of his military bodyguards as he was entering his vehicle to go to work. The Uganda police, while sharing preliminary information about the killing of the minister, said the deceased was gunned down at 8 a.m. in the Kianja suburb of Kampala.
Uganda police spokesman Fred Enanga said the shooting was done by one of the minister's bodyguards who also fired several shots at close range. The shooter then fled the scene to the trading center at Kianja Ring Road, where he entered a salon and shot himself. As investigations are still ongoing, eyewitnesses said the Uganda People's Defense Force soldier complained about basically about non-payment of his wages and mistreatment before he shot himself. Really sad. Now, joining us is our correspondent in Kampala, Uganda, Darren Bartlett. John, of course, share with us on this incident. Good morning, Darren. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. This time I come in midweek.
Good to see you on a Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Really sad story here, and a very unfortunate way to lose two lives. But, what are the updates that we can find on this story? Are these things, are the fact that he complained about his wages and poor remuneration, are these true?
Well, that according to people in the community who saw him shoot these bullets here, they actually say that he kept on saying these words, utter these words and say that he has no problem with the people of Uganda or the citizens, but he has a problem with the government for not taking care of their welfare really well. And he shot him, but he didn't shoot any other people in the community. He just practically sent them away, walked into a salon, a barber salon, and he asked everyone to leave the salon, and he took his own life. But a number of officials in the army have come out to say that, whereas the amount of money that have been paid is not really that good, but it has been improving over the years, and that the money has been coming. So it begs to ask serious questions here. Is that did he have personal issues with finances that he needed more? If police officers, if army officers are coming out to say that they are always paid by the 27th, then the question then will be, is it enough? But also we need to understand that most times whenever these army soldiers are deployed to work in different work with different officials or different assignments, there's usually some amount of money that is paid on top of that. So there's so many questions around it. Is it that he needed a what would you call a tip maybe from his bosses? You can't know because he's not supposed to be giving him that kind of tip. Now, investigations are still going on. The police is trying to find out from the family members that, of course, his family members, the ones who were the first to see the body of their dead father, a relative, to find out was there an exchange, and also his other personal assistant, who's also a soldier, a lieutenant, who was with him at the time, who was shot right in the arm and the leg. We are hoping that he will, have something to tell the police, that information will come out. But you know what? I need to give you some history of such instances that we've been having. I can give you a history that in 2021, the former CDF of the country, also the former IGP of the police, who is also the current Minister for Works, he had an attempt on his life. Unfortunately, he lost his daughter in that incident, but we've seen other officials in high-ranking places, high-ranking officers in the police, like the former IGP Kawesi, we've seen Chirumira, we've seen another army officer, Abiriga, and then another a little bit back there who was shot dead. We've seen magistrates die. Joan Chigozi, who was also killed in her car. So these things have been happening over time. So we beg to ask the question that, is it about welfare? Is it a case of mental health? And so on and so forth. But if you ask me how important the State Minister for Labour, Charles Engola, is in Uganda, I would say that he's a man who has helped to bring peace in the northern parts of Uganda, fighting against the LRA that was led by Joseph Kony, and flushed them out of the northern parts. He led actually the 501st Brigade of the army, and he also got into politics when he stood as an LC5 of OYM, and then he also, came as a member of parliament. He has actually died as a member of parliament in there, and he served in two positions in the cabinet of the president, where he was first he was the state minister for defense, replacing Jeje Odong there before Jeje Odong moved into internal affairs, and then later on moved into labor, the Ministry of Gender and Labor. And it's so interesting that on the 1st of May, which was Labor Day or Workers' Day, he was talking about ethics and how people should behave at work, and giving it as a reason as to why there's low productivity and employment. And see, just a day after, he was actually the master of ceremony, and when after giving that, speech of hope to employers, he loses his life, especially when everything is surrounding about labor, and people are talking about, the people at his village talking about the soldier, talking about still labor, and this has to do everything with employment again, and that's how he loses his life.
Very sad situation that we are indeed getting, especially concerning this case. But very quickly, let's look at it from another aspect. What is being expected today? What are the plans? What are the security operatives saying? Have they also been able to locate his family? Earlier on, we had taken a look at the Daily Monitor newspaper at the front page there, and it made a very clear statement that the killer Bodyguard had been with the minister for only 3 weeks. And with your mention that these things have a past, they've happened in the past, is it a way of expressing dissatisfaction? Is it starting to look that way, that's the way workers with members of parliament, those in high places, show the dissatisfaction? And what are we expecting to hear later today?
Well, more information is just coming in, trickling every now and then. And so far now, as of this morning, we got to learn that one of the captains actually in the army, who was also, the captain was just a captain, flying captains, Captain Mike Mukula, who was also a minister at some point, pointed out and said that this particular subject, the one who shot the minister, has had 2 indiscipline issues that in his previous deployment. And though they don't say who he was guarding at that time, but it's a general, they just mentioned that it's a general. He had indiscipline issues with him, and that's how he was redeployed to come and guard the Honorable Charles Engola. And so we are now moving backwards to say, okay, maybe he's just indiscipline, and this was another case of indiscipline. So everything is trying to come out. I know that the police is also in touch with his family, just to seek out and find, has he had mental issues in the past? Has there been an assessment made on these army officers? Because the president has always recommended that, you cannot give a gun to someone who is mentally unstable, and they don't have to be mad. They just have to not be in the right state of their mind. Soldiers have been recorded and reported into the court army for shooting in public places like bars, killing their wives, marital issues, and so on and so forth. Another one just killed another police officer who killed himself because of monies that he was owed, about $100, an equivalent to $100. So some of these people may not be in their mental state. Probably they have not managed their finances so well that even when they get the salary, it's too little. So they kind of think that when you deploy them to some of this special work, like guarding people, high-profile people, you need to be given some extra money. Now, they're trying to just trace, as investigations go on, what could have been the root cause of this. I know that for sure that by the end of today, the personal assistance to
Darren, just final question. I want, if you can squeeze it into a minute. Some of the reactions, sadly, some of the reactions that I've seen to this story on social media are not really, mourning. A lot of them are saying, well, this probably needs to happen to a lot more politicians across the continent. So I want you to address that. Is there that level of anger and frustration towards African politicians that people wish that they would, that this very, very terrible act would be their fate? Is that common in Uganda and across the continent?
Yes, it's very common, especially when it comes to political fatigue. That's what I would call it, especially where leaders have taken long in power. People get fatigued and they think that change has to come. So if change has to come by the gun, if change has to come by death, yes, then it happens. It has happened to one of the generals in Uganda who actually brought the president, Yoweri Museveni, to power, Eli Tumine. When he died, there was just celebration online. People were even arrested for, making such comments. So they were just celebrating the death of such people because they think it's time for them to go. And regardless of how they go, they should go.
Oh, wow. That's really, really shocking.
Very shocking. Very shocking indeed.
Kind of shocking.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Darren Bartlett. Thanks for joining us on a midweek. We look forward to see you on Friday, by the way.
Yeah, I will be here.
All right, then.